that play, when somebody goes by you and you go to block their shot and you try and swipe and you end up hitting them in the head, like the fact that that's become a flagrant foul is kind of silly. It just is. Like basketball is a contact sport. It's not a collision sport. It's a contact sport. It's hard to judge intent. Part of it is, though, is like women are just not that athletic. Like I'm not saying anything that's a breakthrough here. And so that play, it's one of those, you know how they say when you eat, like your eyes are bigger than your stomach? Like in that case, your ego is bigger than your actual athletic ability. And so she wasn't even close. But it was, she's taking a swipe at the ball and she hit her in the head. Like no big deal or whatever. But because it's Angel Reese and because it's Caitlin Clark and because it's the Chicago Sky and Caitlin Clark, they have no positive sweat equity, right? They want to be tough, hard-nosed, this is what we do, no nonsense, deal with it. I think it's funny that both times something's happened to Caitlin Clark and both times her team has won, no matter how bad her team actually is. Here's Angel Reese on the flagrant foul.
For inside, I think we were playing really hard. I think we went up really strong a lot of times and we didn't get a lot of calls. And going back and looking at the film, I've seen a lot of calls that weren't made. I guess some people got a special whistle.
Some people got a special whistle. Like, again, this is where it gets to the I can only defend you to a point. I can only defend you to a point. Like, the proper answer is, I know it looks bad. I was trying to block a shot. I didn't mean to hit her in the head. Right? But what happens is when you answer every question wrong, and that's answering the question wrong. When you answer every question wrong and you got beat again and you refuse to just go like, hey, it's inarguable. There's no special whistle there. I don't like that it's a flagrant foul, but it's called a flagrant foul in the NBA. It's called a flagrant foul in college basketball. It's called a flagrant foul in the WNBA, apparently. And when you start with a lie, it doesn't matter what else is the truth. Even if she gets a favorable whistle with the rest of the game, that play is inarguably a foul and inarguably, based upon by rule, a flagrant foul. That's it. Hey, my bad. I was trying to block a shot. I missed. Talk about Angel Reese. I said, here's Caitlin Clark talking about Angel Reese.
I think, what she's done with her platform has been absolutely incredible. And, she has an entire fan base that has supported her and what she did at, Maryland and then LSU. Like, obviously, I've played her for a very long time and she's been a tremendous player. So, it's been fun getting to compete against. I think it's been really good for the game. Like, people just love seeing great matchups. But also, at the same time, like, people tune in for these matchups, but then they get to see how amazing these teams are. And then they find new players to support and continue to come back for them, too. So I think that's another benefit of it, honestly.
Yeah, we have so declawed Caitlin Clark to where first she answers every question the right way, even if it's not the truth. She doesn't have a legion of fans. There's not a group of people that followed her from Maryland. No one on earth knew she existed at Maryland. Honestly, no one on earth knew that Caitlin Clark existed her first 2 years at Iowa. It wasn't until her junior year. Like, if we're going to strip away and start to tell the truth, Angel Reese doesn't exist in the public landscape if not for Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark exists just fine without Angel Reese. Okay? Just fine. But she doesn't have some fan base following her.
You know what would have been funny? Remember last week when her head coach, what's her name, Sides?
Coach Christy Sides.
Yeah. Remember Caitlin Clark took the high road on something. And then Sides came out and was like, yeah, I got a private message from her saying that, they just awoke the monster, which went against the high road that Clark was trying to take. We just played that bite of her taking the high road on Angel Reese. It would have been funny if Sides were to come out and be like, yeah, well, she texted me afterward and said, I'm going to get that B word next time,
Note to self, we are not, what we're not doing is we're not texting our coach because our coach can't keep our private text private. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like all that happens is we keep pushing, and when I say we, I say the media, I know I'm not doing it, but I am associated with the media because I'm a member of the media. We keep pushing Caitlin Clark to have to somehow apologize for everybody else's behavior when she has done zero wrong outside of she hadn't shot the ball as well and taken probably deeper shots because of the amount of pressure defensively she's gotten. Like, all right, I mean, like, she hadn't been the greatest player on earth, but she hadn't been terrible for the most part. She's been really good. She's a rookie. But we make her have to apologize and recharacterize and reformulate everything, whereas everybody else just gets to take shots. It's fascinating theater that we're doing there. Let's get to Dan Byer. Get a quick update, Dan.
I had some thoughts on this whole deal because this all happened when I was on the show. We were doing our show yesterday.
And I share them.
I completely thought it was an intentional foul. And you know when you can get away with something. And in that moment, your point about Angel Reese saying, that she was going for the block, but she also wasn't even close on the block.
Yeah.
I think she knew that. She also had help coming over that ended up blocking the shot. So it was, to me, a wide open, I've got an opportunity to clock her in the head, and I'm going to do it. Like, I understand, like, heat of the moment and game and stuff. But, Doug, when you're on a court and you can take a shot, maybe get away with it, maybe not. And I felt that she was not even near the vicinity of blocking that shot. And it wasn't going to be a bucket because she was getting help defense from the other side that ended up blocking the shot. But I felt that not only did Angel Reese know what she was doing, it was interesting that none of the Fever players went over to Angel Reese. They did run over to Caitlin Clark and help her up off the court, but nobody ran over to Angel Reese to do anything and to try to put a stop to that. So I thought that was.
What do you think? What do you think that's about?
I think that they don't want to deal with it. Maybe for a while I just thought like they didn't want that. They probably had the same sort of opinion of Caitlin Clark as others in the league. So I kind of felt that maybe your teammates also resented her. But this just seems like we went and rewound the tape because they kept showing the replays of it on during the game, and they would never show like the reaction of the team. But when the foul actually happened, there were about 2 or 3 Fever players that came over and helped her up. But there was no brouhaha or anything. And I do think at some point, Caitlin Clark or somebody's going to have to step up and just do something. Like
they need an enforcer. They really do.
Yeah, and it may have to be her instead of Caitlin Clark always saying the right things, And
it can't be. It can't. That would be complete mismanagement by their coach and by the general manager. It can't be like that. She can't do it. She just can't do it. You need a fall if you got a crew, you got to have a fall guy in the crew, right? Got to have somebody else who's when my first exhibition game at Notre Dame, we played some German professional team. They had a big 7-foot center, and about 2 or 3 times guys came through the lane, and he just cheap shotted them. And we actually lost the exhibition game. And I'll never forget that practice the next day was at 7 in the morning, and we just kept watching tape over and over again of him, what's called chucking guys, which used to be taught, though not really legal, which is you come across the lane and you just forearm shiver a guy to the sternum, right? And our rule was, and this is most college basketball teams' rules, just like NBA teams, like if somebody gets your guard, you got to get their guard. Your big guys have to protect you. And that was the late John McLeod, who's like a couple of cows in the pasture just chewing your cud. That's what he would say. So the fact that they don't have anybody who's going to hammer one of the Chicago Sky guards, like if you're going to play that way, that's the way you have to play.
And like an angle that can't be ignored, and I know it's getting more and more steam, is this Alyssa Smith angle. Her teammate, who I've watched a few of their games, and Alyssa Smith seems to be like one of those that has the attitude to be kind of an enforcer type. She's dating Dejanay Carrington, and I know there's been a lot made of this in the last few days where Dejanay was the one who called out Caitlin Clark on social media last week for not saying something against misogyny and racism. And then all of a sudden, pictures start to surface, and then confirmation that Dejanay Carrington's actually dating Alyssa Smith on The Fever.
No, Alyssa Smith.
Alyssa Smith.
No, it's no Alyssa Smith.
Oh, that's definitely an important fact to point out.
Sorry.
So I think that can't really be ignored, right, Doug? That's a strange dynamic.
Like this, and this is the part of the WNBA which is. It's not a secret in the WNBA, but to anybody outside, you have relationships within teams, and when the relationship and that can cause a lot of drama between those teammates and other teammates. There are times in which you have to trade both teammates, or a couple breaks up, and you got to trade somebody away. You got to cut somebody. This is very much part of. I have friends who are WNBA or have been WNBA coaches, and they will tell you, like, there's a dynamic there that you can't replicate anywhere else in sports. The idea that there's women dating other women, there's women that are bitter at straight women, there's straight women that are uncomfortable with the lesbian women. Like, that's a real thing, and we can sit here and go, like, well, we can talk in code, but we don't have to, right? We don't have to. Like, this is a public thing. It's very, very strange when your girlfriend hip checks your team's best player and you're supposed to come to the defense. Like, we've called out LeBron James when Chris Paul, didn't Chris Paul cheap shot somebody like opening night early on with his time with the Lakers? And you're like, wait, why'd LeBron go and side with Chris Paul, right? We do that. And that's just friends. We're talking about lovers. That's a part of this league that no one's paid attention to for 26 years. It's nuts. Trying to manage that, nuts.